Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at Youjo Senki episode 12 or Saga of Tanya episode 12. Now, I'll say this right now, since this is the last episode of the season or series, we haven't heard any confirmation for another season yet. I will be reviewing the whole thing. Obviously, I will give it a final rating, and I'll talk about the season after they talk about the episode. Now, this episode, don't expect action, don't expect a lot of stuff happening. This is talking. This whole episode for conclusion is talking, which by the way is done very well. I have no issues with it. I think it was a fitting end for Tanya and just her story in general right now for the time being. I really liked it. We see some introduction of new characters that might be showing up maybe in a possible season 2, and we see some kind of forbidding or foreboding concepts coming out, which is interesting. Now, Tanya essentially talks to the general, and this is where I want to talk about the most growth that we've seen from Tanya. Where she's talking to the general, and she says that she realizes that humans, when they're downtrodden, when they're pushed aside, when they feel like they've lost, that is where they're like the phoenix. She didn't say exactly like that, but I'm kind of making a generalized statement. Where, like the phoenix, they rise again, and they get stronger, and they want to fight back, and they want to show that they can do victory, and go for it. And fitting enough, guess what happens? Yeah, the Republic finally decides, hey, listen, we're not settling for this, apartheid thing, this temporary. No, we're gonna fight, and we're gonna win against the Empire because we're stronger than them, etc. And we're not alone, etc. They're really not alone because, as we learned from Tanya at one part, the Empire is now hated by everyone in the world. And guess what? That means that their version of the United States of America, it's the United States of Kentucky. They even have soldiers from over there coming to join them, and we see some users of magic. It looks like from this little girl who I want to say was the one who lost her father. I'm not 100% sure on that, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below if you know that. But she looks like she wants to go to war, and she's got magical aura around her eyes, which is very interesting. That's something that Tanya has to always pray to do. So that's very interesting. I'm curious about that. But we see Tanya at the end, basically saying that she wants to, defeat God himself and become the new gods with her troops. And she talks about how even though they're hated by the whole world, they're gonna go to war, they're gonna fight, and they're gonna win. They're gonna kill God, as they say. And it's like Tanya learned a little bit about herself because she shows images at the beginning about how she as a person was and how she realizes that she was kind of a cruel person. But at the same token, what I like about Tanya's character is that she doesn't go, okay, well, that's a wrong way of being. No, instead, she goes, that's how I want to be. And that's how I know I should have to be and how I'm going to act. Is that, that's how she thinks, that she speaks up her mind. She feels like that's how she goes into battle. That's her strength. And I think that was a good way to end the show, so far. I mean, the whole kind of forbidding, I keep saying forbidding, it's foreboding. I'm sorry about that. Foreboding concept of, the impending world war that's going to show up. That's very interesting to me. I'm curious. I kind of hope this series gets a season 2 because honestly, I really enjoyed it. I really think this was like for Studio Nut's first job. And yeah, I said Nut because the kind of joke everyone doing is how the studio is pronounced. But Studio Nut, all honestly, did a very fantastic job for their first major anime. I'm blown away that this is their first animation. I only have high hopes that if they can do this for their first, if they keep doing more animation and more stuff later on down the line, they can really excel in the animation world. And I think, I'm not saying that they're going to be the best studio out there. I don't know about that. But definitely with stuff like this behind them and stuff moving forward, we can probably see them doing some decent work, I think, from the future. And I'm very curious if they will continue after Tanya. It's really, like, I don't really know how well Tanya's doing in Japan, unfortunately, so I can't give you that analysis if they'll continue even doing any more anime. But I presume so. I mean, like I said, this is really a well-done series. Story-wise, I really like this story. I like the concept of how they have this character who essentially is just an evil person getting reincarnated and still being an evil person, if not worse, but having to be forced into, thinking about God and how God is supposed to be. But in this world, it's a very twisted form of God, which is very interesting because it's a God that wants her to learn via pain more than else. And it's like blatantly obvious that it wants her to learn via pain, rather than anything else that we've been told about God and whatever religion you actually believe in. It's a very interesting look at, a God in an anime, I think, which is kind of cool. But animation wise, I love the animation. I think Tanya has some weaker moments, especially in this episode. Please, someone tell me they noticed that her arms were like spaghetti monsters. Like, There was a time when she was yelling and her arms were so thin, like even more thin than usual. That was weird. Okay, I'm not the only one to notice that. Please tell me someone in the comments. Put down you noticed that somewhere. It was weird. But animation wise, for the most part, besides that, looked very good. Some of the CGI was a little weaker, obviously, but it's not a big deal. I think that it was fitting for where it was used. Wasn't used to be like the forefront of the images or anything like that. It was always used in the background to kind of just reinforce an image or to reinforce a scene. That use, especially if you use a lot of troops and soldiers and characters on screen. So I mean, I have no issue with that. In terms of music, I really love the closing. I think the closing, like at first, I wasn't a big fan of, but as I kept listening to it, it actually grew on me. Like I really loved the ending. And I listen to it a lot now for some reason. The opening, not one of the Myth and Royd's best openings to me. I think it was okay, but it really felt for me. It worked for the show. Don't get me wrong, but it just didn't feel that great of an opening. And it's one of the rare times I say the ending is actually better than the opening, which is very rare. Y'all will hear me say that. Um, but overall, I really dig this show. I think that this show is well done. I think that for the most part, I had no issues with it beyond, some of the concepts here and there, and sometimes some of the weaker episodes. I mean, this is definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea, so I'm going to give it points degraded for that, for the sheer fact that I know for a fact that military anime is still not a hugely liked thing in the anime world, because it typically is always magical and supernatural rather than kind of realistic. But because of that, if I had to review, Youjo Senki or Saga Time of the Evil between an A through F, I have to give it a solid B. I really dig the show. I think it was one of the stronger shows of the season, to be honest with you. And I just like I said, I hope this is season 2. I really do. I don't see it happening for a long time, most likely, but if it does happen, I'll be right there reviewing it. Anyways, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this episode review. As always, I will talk to you later. Until I pass across again in the next review, have a great one, everyone. Oh, actually, let me mention, by the way, big important update coming out next week in case you didn't follow me on Twitter and you don't know about that. Very important update coming out next week. But I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.